Yes, perfect. Thank you.
Doing that now.
Yes.
Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon,
Hello.
depending on wherever you are in the world. Welcome to this great edition of this special event hosted by the Nigerian Professional Group, also popularly known as NPG Boston, which is where the organization is headquartered. And the title of the event today is Know Your Rights, and pretty much we're discussing the topic navigating U.S. immigration laws with confidence. Today we're honored to have Attorney Ogo Okoye and our very own Barrister M.M. Obot, who would be the anchors and the panel that will be handling the questions that we have for them today. And with that being said, let me introduce M.M. Obot to, tell us a little bit more about herself, the organization NPG, and then we go to Attorney Ogo Okoye afterwards. M.M.
Okay. Thank you so much, Tosi. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you everyone else that has joined. Yes, thanks for joining in. So for today, we are having the NPG, the Nigerian Professional Group. We're having a Know Your Rights session. And the reason why we're having the Know Your Rights session is because of what's been going on, like because of the new administration. And so because we are an organization that serves the community, especially the immigrant community, the students, the professionals, and everyone else. So we had to organize this to answer the burning questions that most of our community members have, like the implication of the executive order and everything else. And like Tosin said, I'm a licensed attorney from Nigeria. I practiced in Nigeria for about 2.5 years, 3 years. And then I came for my master's in Northeastern University. And then now I'm serving as a paralegal at Boss Legal Group, of where Attorney Ogo Okoye is the senior legal practitioner there. And because we need someone that is as experienced as she has over 21 years of experience in immigration laws. And these questions have been coming, and the Nigerian Professional Group deemed it fit to have someone as wonderful and as experienced as Attorney Ogo Okoye to be able to explain the intricacies in immigration law, the executive orders, the implications of the executive orders, and what is to guys to maybe have a pen and a notebook, like to be able to take like valid points on what's like the advice is going to be given, because we just have to stay educated. So now I'll be passing it on to Attorney Ogo Okoye. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you, MM, for that introduction. And like she said, over to you, Attorney Ogo.
Thank you so much, everyone, my people. I am excited that these are my people, my Nigerian community. I have to start off by saying that this is not legal advice. This is merely intended to be informative for you to know your right. So this presentation does not make me your attorney, even though I'd love to be your attorney, but this is just not legal advice, okay? I don't know anyone's individual legal situation, so it's informative, okay? So the disclaimer is out of the way, and I will be respectful of your time and just jump in. I'll share my screen. Let me know if you're able to see my screen. Are you able to see?
Yes, we can. Please proceed.
Awesome. Okay, so know your rights. Without question, we are navigating uncharted territory here in the United States. Things are not the way it should be. And so as a matter of necessity, everyone who is in the United States must know everything that I'm going to present and share with everyone today, just for survival's sake. So the vision here in the Commonwealth as well as here in the United States is that it creates a space where everyone can thrive, no matter where they come from or how they got here, and that everyone can fully participate in their community's social, economic, and civic life. Without question, Trump 2.0 might not make it that, the vision that seamless. It's no longer that, right? So I'm going to give you a brief overview of immigration enforcement. I can do a brief overview of immigration law so that everyone kind of understands. You understand there's coming to the United States requires either that you have an immigrant visa or a non-immigrant visa. An immigrant visa is that you have an intent to permanently reside here in the United States. A non-immigrant visa is that you're just visiting. You don't have that intent to permanently reside. And that's why when you're getting a non-immigrant visa, like an F1, like an E, like an O, like, you can't have that intent, right? You can have the immigrant intent. So, quick overview of immigration enforcement. Immigration has multiple agencies. There's the Immigration and Customs Enforcement. These are the people we call ICE. It's ICE, very popular these days. It's the enforcement arm of the U.S. immigration machinery. And then there's the Custom and Border Patrol. These are the people, the men and women we meet at the borders, the airports, everywhere. CBP, they ensure that people are lawfully admitted, or, they're the people we say hello at the airports and, other ports of entry. And then we have the big one, the USCIS, the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services. Those are the arm that actually processes visa petitions, immigration petitions, application forms, and all of that. So how do people come in contact with immigration and customs enforcement? How do people get into this contact? And the goal is to minimize this contact. So the primary reason people get in contact with immigration is through the legal system. So the criminal courts, or courts that process criminal cases, whenever a criminal defendant is fingerprinted, it automatically is rerouted to the FBI database. And if you're illegal, if you have an expired visa, that's how they flag you. So criminal contact. Another way you can get in contact, or you can come in contact with ICE, is when you apply for USCIS immigration benefit petition application, and you have a criminal record, or you are here as an overstay, or you have a final order of deportation. Of course, that will trigger a flag in the system. That's how you come in contact. So you also can come in contact if you're a green card holder returning from your country. So the minute you see or have an encounter with CBP, Custom and Border Patrol, they know you, that's how you get in contact. And of course, these days, the dreaded targeted enforcement and raids that's going on almost everywhere, you get in contact with them. And there are other limited circumstances that we wouldn't be discussing today, but there are multiple ways to get in contact. Those are the 4 big ways. So people get deported. Why do people get deported in the United States? And deportation is essentially the removal of a non-US citizen back to their country. Deportation essentially requires that you go through the Executive Office of Immigration Review, which is the immigration court. Immigration court is under that body. If you entered illegally across the border, we call it IWI. You entered without inspection, that's a deportable, You have a criminal conviction for a crime of moral turpitude. So criminal convictions, I cannot stress enough. My brothers and sisters, criminal convictions or criminal admissions or getting in contact, criminal arrests, those can trigger dire immigration consequences. There are several categories of criminal convictions in immigration law. It could be a conviction for a crime of moral turpitude. It could be a conviction that's an aggravated felony, which is like it's essentially the death sentence under immigration law. So aggravated felony means you are forever barred from coming back to the United States, and deportation is certain, and you're not eligible for any forms of waivers, right? Waivers are forgiveness. Crimes of moral turpitude, you can waive around crimes of moral turpitude. If you are convicted for firearms, drug charges, those things, those are serious criminal charges that trigger either inadmissibility or deportation. Then visa violations. If you have a non-immigrant visa and you violated the terms of your non-immigrant visa, like an F1, you can get something. The CVIS will report either that you're not attending classes, your university reports that you're not attending classes, or they've not seen you, your I-20 is expired and all of that. They would report to immigration. They're required to report to immigration, and that can lead to the issuance of something called a notice to appear. A notice to appear is the beginning of deportation proceedings or removal proceedings. You can also be deportable when you are considered a threat to public safety. And of course, if you lose your permanent resident card, that means you're literally on your way out. Okay, there's questions at the end. So hold on. I know that ideas are coming in while I'm talking, but hold up for the questions at the end, okay? So who is at the risk of deportation? Anyone who is not a United States citizen falls within the category of someone potentially who can be deported. And as a matter of fact, this current 2.0, Trump 2.0, is casting the net so wide that I'm saying to everyone who does not have legal status to really be speaking to an experienced immigration attorney at this time, because it used to be that people who pose public safety risks were on the priority list for deportation. Now it's like everyone. Your visa is expired, you're here illegally, you have a traffic offense. It's crazy what's going on right now. Unauthorized, undocumented immigrants, people with asylum or refugee status or some other form of protection, they're at risk for deportation. Lawful permanent resident green card holders are at risk for deportation unless and until you cross that line and become a United States citizen. Then you'd say, okay, maybe I'm not at risk. But and then you and I did a presentation last week. Denaturalization, which is the process of stripping people from their citizenship, is becoming so prevalent. Something that I said when I was in law school 20 plus years ago. We were scrambling for cases on denaturalization, which is revocation of your citizenship. It's now a thing because there's an agency on the Department of State that is taxed singularly with denaturalization cases. So non-immigrant visitors or students, visa overstays, they're at risk of deportation. So what do you do when you have an interaction with immigration enforcement? What I want everyone on this call to know is that if you are within the confines and borders of the United States, the Constitution of the United States is still applicable to you. Never mind what people tell you that people who are undocumented, it's been challenged in court. That's not true. There are certain amendments to the United States Constitution that I hope everyone who attends this presentation would not forget ever. And it's important that you assert those rights in order to protect your fundamental basic right to remain in the United States. So the first one is your Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. It's the right to remain silent. If you encounter an immigration and customs enforcement person and they start asking you questions, the first thing I want you to remember is your Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. It's applicable to you whether or not your visa is expired, whether or not you just assert. I am asserting my right to remain silent. And the red card is becoming very popular in our office. We're giving out hundreds and hundreds of red cards, which is essentially cards that has inscribed on it your Fifth Amendment and your Fourth Amendment rights. So your Fifth Amendment is your right to remain silent and not incriminate yourself. Carry your cards. I have a website that you can order your, it's www.ilrc.org/red cards. You can order your red cards. Your red cards have to be at this stage a permanent fixture in your wallet, like literally, so that you can just bring it out. Don't even talk to them. Say, I am asserting my right, or just show them the card. You don't have to interact with them. If immigration comes to your home, now, very important, the Fourth Amendment rights to the United States Constitution makes our private spaces like almost sacrosanct. It's your right to reasonable expectation of privacy for things that are like your home. So your home becomes the ultimate place where you can assert your Fourth Amendment right up to privacy. So if they come knocking on your door, you are not legally required to open the door for them. Please do not open the door for them. In order for you to open the door for them, you must have given them consent. And I have to repeat, because we come from a culture where we're very respectful of authority. It's a different mindset here in the United States, and I'm sure most of us on the call, we've figured it out. You should respect authorities, but you should also be able to speak up for yourself or you're done. So docility might not help you, right? So you are saying, I do not give you consent to come into my house. Make sure you repeat that you're asserting your Fourth Amendment right. Do not open the door. However, and this is an important consideration, if they show you a warrant that is signed by a judge, so there are several warrants. There's an ICE administrative warrant. That is not a Fourth Amendment compliant warrant. So make sure that you are asking them to show you a judicial warrant signed by a judge, and the warrant must have your name correctly spelled, your address, and the particular place in your house that is supposed to be searched, right? So don't open the door. The whole interaction can be had beneath the door. You can slip your red card, which I strongly urge everyone to get. You don't have to open the door. If they say they have a warrant, tell them to put the warrant under the door and make sure, do a review of the warrant to make sure that it's actually a judicial warrant and not the administrative ICE defective warrant under the Fourth Amendment. Do not be afraid to ask the officer to identify their names, the agency they come from, their ID number. Okay? And then something that is so critical, and I think I said that before, and I'm going to reiterate, have the number of someone who is a good immigration attorney. Memorize the number or just have it on your phone. Someone you can call right away, or someone who is a US citizen in the event, because sometimes they might have the right documents and they might require to take you, and they might have to take you with them in the event that it's a judicial warrant. Driver's license. I can only speak for Massachusetts. I am licensed in New York and Massachusetts. Massachusetts, everyone has a right to drive, right? Everyone gets their driver's license. You drive only on a full driver's license. Please, if you have a learner's permit, don't drive on a learner's permit unless you have someone else in the car who's actually driven for at least 1 year, and the person has to be over the age of 21. sitting next to the driver in the passenger seat. So that is the exception. Everyone drives, but you can drive on a learner's permit, right? Because we don't want any interaction with the officers. So what about if you are driving and this interaction happens, if you're stopped while you're driving? So I just said to you that your Fourth Amendment has the greatest protection within the confines of your home, because that's your ultimate privacy place. Not so much when you're out in the public or when you're driving. Why? Because police officers can do what we call in criminal law pretextual stops. Pretextual stops, you know, they say they have reasonable suspicion or probable cause, so that gives them a right to stop you. If they do stop you, and it doesn't matter because you can always go back to court with an attorney to challenge the initial stop. But if they do stop you, please stay in your car. Make sure you place your hands on the steering wheel so that the officer can see your hands. I can't stress the importance of this enough. If you've lived long enough in the United States, you would know that officers don't have the best interactions with people of color. It's not what you did or what I did, it's just the system. And so you don't play into the hands of the system. You do whatever you can to get out of that transaction or that exchange alive. You do not need to answer any questions, but if you are the driver, you must provide your name and address. Carry your Know Your Rights card. I have to stress that if you're a passenger, you do not need to provide any identifying information to the officer because you're not the one operating the motor vehicle. Like I said before, police can search your car if they have probable cause to believe you've been involved in a crime. State, I do not consent to the search. And people always ask, is it okay to record? As long as you're not impeding the functions of the police officers in discharging what they're supposed to do. They came there to do their work, right? As long as your recording is not impeding them from doing the work, you are allowed to record. But I always say to my clients, if you're two people, have the other person record, not you that is the subject matter of the interrogation. And like I said, the interrogation can be really seamless for you. If you understand your Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination, I cannot begin to tell you how many Nigerian students that I know, because they're my clients, that just want to explain everything to the officers. The more you talk, the more you lose. The more you talk, the more you can't get it back. I am asserting my right to remain silent. That's good enough. I request, officer, am I under arrest? I request to speak to my attorney. Those things protect you. Again, I don't think I said this before. Do not give false documents. That is the worst case scenario because then you are now entangled with fraud and misrepresentation under immigration law, which is another basis for instigation of removal and deportation proceedings. Fraud, right? I think I said this before. If you live in Massachusetts, you are eligible to get your driver's license regardless of your immigration status. So we've talked about the home. We've talked about while driving. How about and myself, we're walking on the street and we're approached by a police officer or ICE. Stay calm. Do not resist arrest. You're allowed to say, am I free to go or am I under arrest? And the reason you're asking this is to understand that there's no custodial, like we want to establish that they are not arresting you. Because if they're arresting you, then they've taken you into custody and all of your rights rise from there. So always ask, am I free to go or am I under arrest? And then if they tell you either one, assert your right to remain silent. Say that you want to speak to an attorney. You have the right to an attorney if they're going to be arresting you and charging you criminally. Police can always search you if they have a reasonable suspicion that you're armed and dangerous, probable cause. If you're over the age of 18 years old and you're living now in the United States, you should always have your immigration documents with you. I don't mean the actual originals, because that would be very risky, right? Copies of the relevant immigration documents with you. Why? Because we've had cases, my office, we've had calls for people who are US citizens who were detained mistakenly because ICE was not able to ascertain whether or not they were United States citizens. Most importantly, do not provide false documents. I think I said this before, if you're stopped. So this is for the long-term planning. I want to make sure, yeah. This is for long-term planning. Make sure you understand this basic thing we talked about in case you have an encounter with officers or ICE. The problem with encounters with officers is that inevitably you end up in ICE custody, because when you encounter police officers and they process you and you get fingerprinted, they usually 9 out of 10 times would transmit the information to ICE. That's the risk. So memorize the phone number of a family member or an attorney or an organization that you trust, that you would be able to call on the phone if you are ever detained. And we're going to get into executive orders and the escalation and the expansion of the people who are now going to be detained according to the executive orders. We'll talk about that later on. Think of a US citizen as someone with immigration status that you trust, that can pay bond if you're granted one by an immigration judge. And not everyone qualifies for bond. For instance, you're ineligible for bond if you have a crime or criminal record that makes you a threat to public safety. You're not eligible for bond. If you're arrested and taken into custody, do not sign anything. Do not take something they call voluntary departure without talking to an attorney. Relying on immigration agents to provide you with immigration or legal information is to your detriment. Don't even do that. Ask to speak to an attorney. Again, you have the right to remain silent, all of those things. If you're detained, usually you're allowed the right to make a phone call. That's why I keep repeating the fact that it's good to have a number of an attorney or trusted family member that you can call for that one call that you're usually afforded. And if your family member is detained by ICE, if you go to ICE locator, just Google search ICE locator, you will be able to find your family member. But the only way you can find them is that you have their A number, you have their full name, and you have their date of birth. Then you can locate to see which facility that the person was taken to. So I already talked about bond. Not everyone is eligible for bond, but bond is something that can get you out of immigration custody following your arrest. Family preparedness. So this is what, I don't know the demography of people on the call, if they're young people, but I'm going to just kind of go through this. If they're young people, it might not be for them, but family preparedness packet. So we're doing a bunch of that these days. Parents, you have the right to make decisions about your children, regardless of your immigration status. You do not have to provide information about your children, but you may want to tell immigration that you are the primary caretaker in case they take you into custody. What if they take you into custody today and you have children? Who will be able to make decisions regarding the medical, emotional, mental, educational needs of the child? So there is the form authorization, caregiver authorization form that we've been doing a lot of since December, since Trump 2.0. Essentially designate someone in your stead to make decisions for your children in the event that you get this kind of encounter. You end up in custody, right? It's good for 2 years, but I say to people, if there's a chance that you might have this kind of encounter, you should have an attorney help you with the drafting of these documents. it's helpful. Caregiver authorization, we call it in Massachusetts. So family preparedness is just essentially about making informed decisions about how to take care of your family, having a safety plan in place. And I'm going to stress how important this is. Make sure you have a conversation. It is a difficult conversation, I know, but it's a conversation that must be had nonetheless. Talk to everyone that is part of the family. Say, so this is where the birth certificate, the passport, everything is, this is the bag it's going to go in. This is the authorization for who is going to pick the child from school. This is the authorization of who is going to, so make a plan, but make a plan that is concerted. Like everyone is part of the plan, not just you. Who will care for the children in your absence, who will, educational, medical, emotional needs, right? Very important. Update your school contacts for your children. Register your child's birth certificate with your consulate, the Nigerian consulate. Apply for passport for your children. In fact, if you have a child and you've not applied for the passport in this administration, I think you should really think about that. Children should have, because you just can't predict what would happen next. These things are all part of family preparedness. So important documents, save all of the immigration documents, put in a folder. Everyone knows the location of the folder. Many documents that have your A number. A number, as you guys know, is alien registration number maybe you don't know because a lot of you are on non-immigrant visa. But A number is the alien registration number that you get when you're looking to become a permanent resident or filing for immigration benefits. So they assign you an A number. So documents that have a date of hearing, an appointment with ICE, those are the kind of things that you put in that kind of family preparedness kit. Access to benefits and public charge. During the last Trump administration, this thing came up. So public charge essentially is an inadmissibility. So when I say inadmissibility, something that makes you not admissible. So they won't admit you if you rely on the government for support, or if you're someone who's going to be dependent on the government, you take food stamps and all of that. Trump 1.0 said that if you've ever received public benefits, that you're ineligible for adjustment, meaning getting a green card. I just saw in one of the executive orders that he plans to reinstate that. So something to be on the lookout for. So if you're a parent and you're applying for public benefit, I want you to understand this. Immigrant parents can always apply for their children. So while the immigrant parent is not eligible for, or shouldn't, to be safe, shouldn't be doing it, their children are eligible. So they can always apply for their children. Parents, they do not need a social security number or proof of immigration status to apply for their children, but the parents must still verify their income because all of these things are income eligible. If you fall within 25% of poverty level, then or 20%, I forget the precise percentage. You do not need to be a US citizen to get benefits. So under the current rule, there are no immigration consequences to applying to receive health benefits unless you're doing this for a cash income maintenance. So people who get cash maintenance every month, there might be consequences, or people with long-term nursing home care. The government is paying for your long-term nursing home care. That might qualify for public benefit and might be disqualifying or make you inadmissible. But in Massachusetts, state benefit agencies and healthcare providers do not report immigrants to ICE. So I gotta stress, if you live in Massachusetts, you happen to live in one of the friendliest or immigrant-friendly places in the entire United States. So it's just something that just gives my heart so much joy in the midst of the craziness that we're going through. Immigration, Massachusetts is very proactive. Boston is a sanctuary city, protects immigrants, and just make sure 8 cities and towns in Massachusetts are sanctuary towns. And I just read last night the lawsuit filed by our Attorney General with 8 or 9 other Attorney Generals, essentially saying that diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives are not illegal. and we still intend to implement and apply them. It was very refreshing and heartwarming to see. So public charge rule, many immigrants will not be subject to the public charge rule. It applies to immigrants who are applying for green card, right? US citizens, it doesn't apply to US citizens or green card renewals or, you know. And then if you're humanitarian visas are like asylum, T visa, U visa, DACA, public benefits, disqualifying factors wouldn't apply to you. So the only two benefits that are considered under the current rule, cash assistance for income maintenance and institutionalization for long-term care at government expense. Those are the two disqualifying. So for most of us on this call, we don't have disqualifying public charge factors. So most people who face the public charge test are not eligible for the benefits in the test. So essentially, what I'm saying is if you're in Massachusetts and you get food stamps like SNAP and, you know, it's not considered under the current rules. But I have to also say that the executive, or one of the executive orders that I read seemed to suggest that Trump 2.0 is going to reinstate that. But we've not seen that applied yet. Same thing. Could the rule change? Yeah, I already seen it. But the implementation of the rule, I don't see yet. So where to get legal help? There's so many nonprofit organizations in Massachusetts. These are times where a lot of people are pretending to be attorneys and essentially exploiting immigrants, because there's a lot of fear and anxiety in the community. Report to the Attorney General's office, report to the Massachusetts Board of Bar Overseers, and, you know, EOIR. And a lot of immigration legal resources. We have an immigrant welcome center, immigrant service center in Lynn that offers reduced fee legal services for immigrants. You can ask me questions about that at the end. And I think this is it. So time to ask questions. Sorry, guys, I'm recovering from a cold.
Thank you so much, Attorney Ogo. That is a very, very detailed and very clear presentation. I believe everyone has learned a lot. I myself have learned a lot. There's a couple of things I never had an idea of, and this has been very, should I say, eye-opening and clear. We've asked people to collate their questions, so please collate your questions so we can now also get to the Q&A. But shortly before we get into the Q&A, I'd like to give about a quick 5-8 minutes, if you don't mind, reducing your time to just give us just a quick follow-up on what Attorney Ogo has given us from your own perspective regarding immigration pathways and legal rights for individuals like us who are foreigners in the U.S. and trying to find our way.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And thank you so much, Attorney Ogo, for such an insightful presentation, because these questions were like burning like among immigrants and people have been scared. So we know definitely that we needed a session like this. Thank you so much. And then we also thank the NPG for organizing this for immigrants, because these are like crazy times. So picking up from what you've said, and I have to also do a disclaimer. I'm not your personal attorney. I am a paralegal at Boss Legal Group. So I do any information that is on this call is purely informational and educational. So, but if you want to contact an attorney for private legal advice as to your concerns, then you can reach out to either Attorney Ogo at Boss Legal Group or one of the nonprofit organizations like Greater Boston Legal Services. Yes. So for now, for F1 students, right now, the legal pathways that we've been seeing going on is the EB1, the EB2. So like these are all pathways that have existed. And for now, because the Trump administration he's proposing that he's more into legal immigration. So I hope that these pathways remain. So like if you're a student and you have like a master's degree, then definitely you can apply for the EB2 or the EB1A. The EB1A is for professionals of exceptional ability. Like if you feel like you're someone that is really exceptional in your field or your career, then that's also a part to go through. And then also for people that like according to what Attorney August said too, for people if you're undocumented right now, please, like she said, you have to have that red card on you. Like it's very, very, very important. If you're in our group chat, I'm still going to share a picture of it, like the front and the back, just so that you can have it on your phone. So maybe if ICE comes to your house, then you can just read it through. If you're a student, if you're a professional, maybe you're a green card holder, you're a US citizen, it's very important, like she said, to remain silent. Say, I'm not going to speak to you until I get an attorney. And it's very, very important also during these times to have an attorney's phone number, just so that ICE would not take any word that you use to, like they won't use it against you, because you know what the officers always say. They even tell you you have the right to remain silent. Anything you use or say will be used against you. So you have to be very smart in these times. Like the executive orders are really crazy. And so like the first step that you've done is to join the Know Your Rights session, just to be more educated and informed so you don't make crazy decisions. So also let your friends and your family know that the red card is very important. Just when you're with ICE, just stay quiet. Like just tell them I'm reserving my Fifth and my Fourth Amendment right to stay quiet, and I choose to stay silent. So I hope that we've been able to inform you on the best things to do right now. Thank you so much. I'll be passing it on to Tosin.
Thank you so much, for those great words of information and not advice, like we've rightfully said, for everybody to take and use. Now we'll be going into the Q&A session, and like we mentioned earlier, if you do have any questions, please share them in the chat, or you can send them to me directly to share with our panel today. So the first question I have for you, and you can take this by next, Tony Ogo. We've talked about the rights we all have as immigrants, students, and professionals in the United States. But spreading things out a little bit further, you did mention things about people who have families and what. How does that right spread out to the rest of families if you do have families alongside you in the United States?
I'm not sure that I understand the question. What do you mean? Can you
Your
repeat?
fundamental rights, right, as
Uh-huh.
foreigners in the United States, but you also have independence, as much as defined as dependence. How do you manage that scenario best with dependence in the state?
So are the dependents in the United States?
Yes.
Yeah. The rights apply to the dependents that are part of your family. They're within the confines of the borders of the United States. So yes, the Fourth Amendment and the Fifth Amendment is applicable to them as well.
Okay. The next question, how do I know I'm being treated fairly under United States law?
Say that again. Sorry.
How do I know that I'm being treated fairly under the United States law?
How do you know that you're being treated fairly? I think you know, right? If someone isn't treating you right, you would know. But if you have a specific instance or conduct, do you want to share like a specific thing that happened? Or like give me a scenario, like, yeah, I need more.
Okay, so let's say in the scenario where, like you did mention a couple of scenarios where, let's say, ICE knocks on your door, and without being, should I say, giving them authority, but they actually get a session of like forceful entry, or actually stopping people in a bus and just doing like a stop and search on a bus and actually taking people. How do I know if that's being treated fairly or I've just been discriminated against?
Yeah, if they arrested you unlawfully, you know if you speak to an attorney. If you
Okay.
speak to an attorney will tell you if this runs afoul of the law or if this is a violation. And I don't do civil rights law, but I do criminal defense and immigration. So I know when my clients' constitutional rights are violated relative to their rights to remain silent, relative to their right to a reasonable expectation of privacy under their Fourth Amendment. So I know those things. And so I think speaking to your attorney would kind of like, alert you to whether or not. Yeah.
So pretty much the go-to is I need to speak to my attorney. Regardless of the situation, once you get to a calm and collected scenario, I need to speak to my attorney.
Yes.
That's the way to go. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
My next question would be from your experience working in the immigration field especially, what would you say are the most common misconceptions that you've seen so far?
Oh, that's a great question. That's a great question. Thank you for that. This first misconception. Oh, I can fill out my own immigration form.
Okay.
That is the worst case scenario for clients. So I've done this work 21 years this year. And when I see clients that had regular, easy cases and they attempted to do it on their own, you'd see clients making mistakes that eventually will be construed as misrepresentation and fraud. They make their cases from an easy case to overly complicated. So, and guess who does it more? My Niger people. So then it just destroys a good faith, easy immigration case because immigration law is very complex. Anyone can tell you that besides the tax code, the Immigration and Nationality Act is almost like it's punishment to tell anyone to read it. So we got a call a couple of days ago from a scientist who was Nigerian and just attempted to fill out a basic form herself and just messed it up so bad that now immigration is attempting to strip her of her green card. Yes. And she's a scientist, but my thing is my Niger people, there's a reason that people specialize in, like, you know what I mean? Don't do it yourself. So immigration is not easy. Another misconception that I see that happens to a lot of our people is just the culture is different. So I want to say in the last 20 years, so Nigerians were very affectionate people, right?
Yep.
Very friendly. But do you know how many indecent assault and battery charges involving my people that I've had to defend? Because someone said, "Why did she tap my butt? My butt? They tapped my butt while they were laughing." We do that in Nigeria and we get away. Right? You don't get away with that. Yeah, it's called.
Yeah.
We don't get
so
away with that.
true. Yeah.
So I get a lot of people. So and that's part of what we do at the Immigrant Service Center is teaching how you assimilate to the culture in a seamless way so that you don't make the mistakes that innocently we probably have like 5 cases like that, innocent interaction that is being construed as indecent assault and battery. And you know what indecent assault and battery is? It's an aggravated felony. That means deportation is a certainty. And that means you can't avoid it. So Attorney Okoye can only do so much. Even if we win the jury trial, it's still, you're fighting it's crazy. So that's another thing that I want us to be conscious about. The culture is very different.
That's a very, very good point you just raised. One, don't do it yourself. You don't know better than an attorney, so always get an attorney to help, especially when it's an immigration-based case. Because like you mentioned earlier, the laws are constantly changing, especially under the dispensation we are now. So we should be very, very careful and very adept to using the resources we have, which is an attorney in the case of filing. And the other part is we are in a very, very different culture. Different cultures around the world have different principles on the culture, around norms there are not the same with Nigeria. Please don't go around, or I would say don't go around doing things, but try and make sure you understand the culture and your environment and your setting before you actually fully interact and integrate with that setting. So you don't get
That's
yourself in
wonderful.
trouble.
You put it so wow. Thank you for that. You summarized this as a great summation. Yes, thank you.
You're very welcome. I do
Yes,
have
we
a
have
few
some
more questions.
questions.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. What? Sorry, I didn't get that. MM, you have a question?
There's some questions in the
Go for
chat.
it.
There's some questions in the chat.
Oh, yeah. So let me take the first question from Dr. Jerry at the EMI. Says, he or she, what happens to someone who enters the US with B1, B2 that has overstayed for over 10 years and now looking to be properly documented? They tried marrying a citizen, which not sure if the marriage took place or not. Now they have been extorted, and they are not providing the necessary information or documents they need to file. She never sees the person, and until they call to ask for money again, what is the way out? So sounds like potentially this person met someone, they did get married, and looks like the person is
So
trying to extort them.
it looks like a consultation matter because I
That's
can't
what I'm trying to say.
advise. Yeah, yeah.
It looks like
So yeah, call our
I'll say,
office. Yeah.
Dr. Jerry, you'd like to reach out to the attorney
Mm.
after this session and try and get some of their immigration, should I call it, advice, and actually get a proper consultation to get the right answers and the way to navigate this. But I do know they'll be able to help you and assist with this very matter. Definitely, you're in great hands. That's what I would say. A few more questions that I do have. A big one is, you did mention about the red card, which you need to get. How do we go about getting a red card for ourselves and people? What's the process? Where do you get it? Do you mind just walking us through that real quick?
Okay, so I'm going to make sure that everyone who attended this gets the presentation, but the red card, you can get it from ilrc.com. what does it say? Hold on, I'm going to go back to, but yeah, it's in the presentation and I'm going to share with everyone.
Okay, thank you so much. So we'll take that, and I'll take one more
I'll
question.
post it in between. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, MM. One more question before we wrap it up. A lot of people like to travel, just like myself, travel locally, internationally, always up and about. What should we have with us, apart from just the red card, but like what kind of information or knowledge should we have in regards to dealing with CBP, moving locally with CSA here and there, knowing that you might run into law enforcement always as you travel? What should we know, and how should we handle and carry ourselves?
That's a great question. And we actually had a seminar. Okay, so American Immigration Lawyers Association, we had a seminar yesterday, and we were discussing about CBP not letting people back in for nothing because they can. Because they can. I mean, it's never happened like this before. So you asked a great question. These are people that have green cards that are currently renewing their green card, and they traveled on the emergency stamp. So green card holders, and CBP isn't letting them in. That is crazy. So these are people with lawful permanent resident status. So here's the advice I'm going to give to people. Travel if you think it's absolutely necessary. Travel when you have proof. And I had a consultation yesterday with someone with an F1 visa, and they wanted to go to Mexico. And I said, let's take a look at your I-20. Let's take a look at your passport. Make sure you have up to 6 months or more in your passports. So your I-20, your passport, your F1 visa, and the list of the countries that you're authorized to travel. And we looked down the list, and Mexico was one of them. And I'm like, you gotta make these analyses with an attorney before you travel, because times are different. And let me tell you, they have the legal authority, if you're here on a non-immigrant visa, to deny entry. Why? Because it's not an immigrant visa. An immigrant visa makes you a lawful permanent resident that has the right to travel back and forth. But a non-immigrant visa, like an F or an E2 or an H, I mean, they have the right to say no and revoke at the point of entry. So please, 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 traveling has to be sparingly. If you must, talk to an attorney to analyze your visa, the statutory period, and all of that, just to make sure you're safe.
Thank you so much. I know I said last question, but just one more question. I think we can take it in just about less than a minute. We did have a few questions coming talking about how can we get low cost or potentially free legal advice? Probably not consultation, but where can they get some of the potential legal advice that you can point them towards that is relatively free or low cost?
So
Like some resources.
yeah, those are great. Those are great questions. At the end of the presentation, the last 2 slides have places that you can get low cost advice. I don't know about free. I'm going to be honest, just because a lot of the whatchamacallit, nonprofit organizations are struggling at this time. It's crazy with, I mean, a lot is going on. A lot of nonprofits are overwhelmed. They're looking for attorneys like us to help and offer discounted and, so yes, the PowerPoint presentation, it has links, but most importantly to our Immigrant Welcome Center offers reduced fee legal advice.
Thank you so much. Just so right now, I think we're done with questions. But do you have any final words for us? Butchie and MM, just 1 minute to just farewells and like wrap up for us.
I want to first of all say you guys are incredible for organizing this kind of thing. Young people changing the world, Naija, resilient people, smart people. My smart Naija people, I am just so proud of you. I mean, I don't do these things when if you notice, I'm actually in a hotel room, I'm traveling, but MM said to me, the Nigerian professional, I'm like, oh, my people, I gotta do it for them. So since December, we're doing, MM knows, we've been doing a lot of Know Your Rights across the states with district attorneys across the states. When MM said Nigerian professional, I'm like, my people need to know this information. So here's what I'm gonna leave you with. There's so many executive orders going on right now. I try to read through as much as I can, and every day there's always something new. Enforcement priorities are no longer what it is. That means anyone can stop you. It used to be that you can only stop and speak to someone within 100 miles of a border. Now, it's one of the things that executive order from Trump 2.0, it's crafted. They can literally walk to you and talk to you. And that's why we're doing this Know Your Rights, just assert your rights. MM spoke a little bit about that. There's so many other options for Nigerians. And I was in Nigeria this past June teaching people about e-visas, EB1s, EB2s, EB3s. A lot of foreigners are using it. Nigerians are the smartest people in the world. These are the kind of visas that we can exploit as Nigerians. I was in Nigeria for 4 weeks in June and July of last year, doing seminars across, just teaching people that there are alternatives to F visa. So I want people who are interested in converting from a non-immigrant visa, right, to another non-immigrant visa that can guarantee that they stay longer. We can through the nonprofit offer very reduced consultations to address situations like that, so that our people can make use of, because America is looking for talent. And I'm not going to discount the fact that we are Black people and we already know that this current administration does not like us. But let me tell you if you are smart, they can't really touch you, right? You guys know that, right?
That's true.
So let's utilize that talent. F1 visas are good, but they are temporary visas. There are permanent visas like EB2s and EB3s. We do a lot of EB3s in our office, and consult, ask an attorney to help you see how you can go from a non-immigrant to an immigrant visa. Okay? And I'm here, to help.
Thank you so much, Ogo Koya.
Thank
Tony,
you
we
so
really appreciate you. And ma'am, do you have any last words for us before we?
much. Yes, thank you so much, Attorney Ogo Okoye. Thank you so much, Tosin. I also want to thank the president of the Nigerian Professional Group for the opportunity. And I also want to thank everyone for joining in. So please, I hope you take all the advice that Attorney Ogo graciously gave. Like, these are crazy times. So please, like, stay informed. Do not do it. Don't just make any immigration, like, fill any form without seeking the counsel of an attorney, because knowledge is power. Like, what you know helps you. So it's always very important to get information, like make informed decision immigration wise. And please, yeah, enjoy your stay in America during Trump's time. I hope it's gonna be fine. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you, everyone. Really appreciate you for joining this session. It's been great. I've learned a lot, and I know there's still a lot of gems out there to still learn from. We thank you, Attorney Okokoye, for giving us so many gems today. The words, the information, the direction. I know a lot of people would definitely still reach out to follow up on specific items that they do have. And thank you, ma'am, for facilitating this, the connection, everything to make it work and to happen today. Really appreciate it. And thank you, everybody. I guess until the next session. Thank you and safe travels, Attorney Ogo.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody, and enjoy your weekend.
Thank you. Have a good one. Bye,
Bye.
everyone. Thank you. Bye.
Bye, everyone.